Welcome back to the Fox 7 Sports Office. Julian Martinez here. Another playoff game coming up. So we have another special guest joining us from Fox 10 Phoenix, Richard Saenz. Richard, thank you for joining us today.
Hey, Julian, thanks for having me, man. As a Texan myself, it's always a pleasure to help you guys out and be on the airwaves in my home state. I'm from San Antonio, graduated from Incarnate Word. So, if you want to pay me, just send me some HEB fajitas, and I'll be all set. I'll work for you guys. I'll work for food, that's for sure.
I mean, those things are absolute gold, right? Any time of year, those things are always it. So I could understand missing them. We actually talked about it a little bit before with the camera star rolling here, but for the Sun Devils, this has to feel like just running with house money right now. Everything's gravy at this point. But at the same time, they're entering as 13-point dogs. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, that's the thing. That's just going to add more fuel to the fire when it comes to the Sun Devils, because you got to remember, before the season even started, they were predicted to finish last in the Big 12. So they really are the Cinderella story of this college football playoff. They went from worst to first. They win the Big 12. The odds of ASU winning the Big 12 before the season started was plus 10,000. If you would have bet a $10 bet, you would win $1,000. That's how crazy people thought it would be if ASU won the Big 12, and they've done that. And the crazy part is, this is only the second year for head coach Kenny Dillingham. People thought he was going to turn this program around, but not this quickly. So it's been a pleasant surprise, that's for sure.
What do you think the experts really got wrong? What was the difference here on this team making that jump from, again, they were picked to finish almost dead last in most of the preseason predictions I was seeing. And then you never know, too, coming from the Pac-12 to the Big 12, how that competition level is going to change. But again, 1 year later, they're here winning the Big 12. That's insane by any metric.
Yeah, I think, it was hard to predict what they were going to do because they had so many new components, right? One of them being their quarterback, Sam Levitt, the transfer from Michigan State, the redshirt freshman. He has really turned into be a great leader on and off the field. The kid's got moxie. A lot of people are already comparing him to Jake Plummer. Of course, Jake the Snake led ASU to the Rose Bowl back in 1996. So that's a great comparison, right? Some big shoes to fill. But, I mean, this kid has really hit the ground running. It was an open competition for quarterback. He took the reins, won the job in spring training, right, or training camp, and then he's never looked back. And this kid gets it. And, of course, Cam Scavo has really made that big jump. Each year he's been with this program, and this year a lot of people were saying he should have been in New York for the Heisman, at least in that conversation, in that mix.
When it comes to Sam Levitt, you mentioned it, he's transferring from Michigan State. He was viewed as mostly a 4- or 5-star prospect, depending on who you ask, really. But what is it that Kenny Dillingham did that unlocked him?
Well, that's the thing Kenny Dillingham does, right? I mean, everywhere he's gone, whether it's Oregon or Florida, the offense, the quarterback has always been fantastic. I mean, when you think about Kenny Dillingham, the kid is only 34. I'm going to call him a kid because he's 34 years old and he's already, in the college football playoff and got a first-round bye. I mean, this guy is one of them, boy geniuses, where when ASU was trying to get him, they were like, man, if we can get Kenny Dillingham to come back, because a lot of people in this area knew how special he was in the mind that he had, especially offensively, that he could do something special. But again, people thought maybe year 3, year 4, but here we are in year 2, and he's already turned this program around. And they've already gone and got some people in the transfer portal, because you see a lot of kids that, play on offense and say, hey, if I could be on that offense with that coach and that swag that he's got, why not? So next year could be even better.
You mentioned their use of the transfer portal because Sam Levitt, their quarterback, Tyson, their wide receiver, who I know is banged up right now, and then, of course, the running back, Cam Scavo. We got to talk about him. What makes him such a special talent? Because I know he wasn't highly recruited going into college. Obviously, he went to Sacramento State before he ended up at ASU. Can you talk about the X factor that is Cam Scavo?
Yeah, the thing about Cam Scavo is he's got that it factor, right? And that's what Kenny Dillingham has been doing. And that's what I've noticed is he's recruiting a certain type of player. And he even said, Kenny Dillingham, that they've passed on maybe a more talented guy to get the right fit, the right character of a player. And Cam Scavo is the kind of guy, a lot like Sam Levitt, that is one of the better players on the team, but does the right things in practice, does the little things, the details. Yes, sir. No, sir. And then, if you see the main guy's acting this way, then everybody else has to fall in line, right? And that's one thing about Cam Scavo. I'll never forget one of the first times I met him. He looked me straight in the eye and goes, "I'm not a big juke guy. I'd rather just run you over." And then I asked him, I go, "What do you enjoy more, trucking somebody or scoring a touchdown?" He goes, "Oh, definitely running somebody over, trucking the guy." And so that's the kind of mentality he has, and it's contagious. And the rest of the team has kind of followed suit.
I guess the one thing I would say about this Texas front seven is they don't get trucked by a lot of guys. So I think that that's going to be one of the biggest challenges for Cam as he goes into this one. But from my understanding, too, he's also prolific in the receiving game. Can you mention his dual threat ability?
Yeah, that's the thing. Kenny Dillingham is going to have to get creative in getting Cam Scavo in space because, a lot of us here, in the Valley in Arizona watched that Texas-Clemson game, trying to scout it, right, to figure out, how ASU would match up against either team. But one thing I noticed is the size in the trenches. For Texas. I mean, you guys got some big boys out there that have been eating that Texas beef, that's for sure. And it was just like, wow. I think the key for ASU is going to be able to somehow slow down. I don't know if you can stop the Longhorns' rushing game, and then also protect Sam Levitt and give Cam Scavo some space to run and get him maybe in the open field somehow, whether it's a screen pass, because like you mentioned, Cam Scavo is a dual threat. He's got some of the best hands on the team, and he's the running back, so that's what makes him such a special talent and such a valuable asset on offense for the ASU coaching staff.
Now, I know they were out without Tyson in the Big 12 championship game, and that's a huge loss for the receiving corps. How have they been able to manage without him? I know one guy stepped up and caught a couple touchdowns. Can you talk about that unit as a whole?
Yeah, and that was a big blow because Jordan Tyson also from Texas, right? And him and I would always joke, all the ballers are from Texas, right? And Kenny Dillingham has done a great job in recruiting Texas. But, Xavier Guillory came up big for ASU in that Big 12 championship game. And then, of course, as I mentioned, Cam Scavo catching the ball out of the backfield. They've got good tight ends as well. And that's the thing about Kenny Dillingham. He's so creative offensively. I'm really curious to see what he's going to do against this Texas team. Obviously, a tough team, right? I mean, a team that had, national championship aspirations before the season started. But now you give Kenny some extra time to prepare. Of course, all week, before the actual Texas-Clemson game, he was saying, look, we're not really game planning because we don't know who we're going to play. But I think that was a little bit of a smokescreen because we all knew it was going to be Texas, and I'm sure he's going to have some tricks up his sleeve. He better, that's for sure, because this is going to be a tough matchup. The odds makers already say, right, the Longhorns are a 2-touchdown favorite, but that's been the case for ASU all year long.
So we're not completely unfamiliar with ASU. So another team we covered, Texas State, they were here in San Marcos, and that was a close game. It was down to the wire. In fact, ASU was down a couple touchdowns, and then if you retrack a couple months ago, they're losing a game to Cincinnati. So what's the difference between that ASU team that we saw earlier in the year and where they are now? Because it seems like they've really improved over the course of the season and just gotten better.
Yeah, that's a great observation because you're right, Julian. They've gotten better and better each week, and that's a testament to the coaching staff, right? And that's also a testament to these kids that bought into the system and they worked hard, and now you're starting to see the fruits of their labor because they have improved each and every game. And it was really interesting to see how they would win games because at first, like you mentioned, they had to come back. And you're like, wow, these kids got some moxie, right? They're showing some fight here, some guts because they didn't quit. And then now, the last 3 games, they won 6 in a row. The last couple games, they won by double digits where, the starters haven't played 4 quarters in almost 6 weeks. So they're going to be fresh, that's for sure.
We've talked a lot about their offense, but what about their defense? Because it's going to take a lot more than moxie to shut down a lot of these big-time weapons on Texas. So who needs to step up? Because I'll admit, I don't, as someone who doesn't watch ASU closely, I don't know a lot of their defensive playmakers. So I'm asking myself, who's going to stop down this wide receiving trio that includes Wingo, Golden, Bolden, all these guys that could really pop off?
Yeah, and I think that's what Texas is going to try to do is use the run game early to set up the passing game with the play-action pass. And that's been the crazy part about this ASU season is they've been very opportunistic on defense. They've created turnovers quite a bit, and when a big blow, you talked about Jordan Tyson, he's out with the collarbone injury. He's got the sling off, but I still don't think he'll play. They're hoping if they move on, he'll play. Of course, that's a big if. But Shamari Simmons, the defensive back for ASU, is going to miss the first half of this game because he got ejected for roughing the passer in the Big 12 championship game. That's a big blow for this defense. So that's going to be the key for ASU, is keep this game close till Simmons comes back in the second half, and don't let the Longhorns get that early lead and then use that run game to just kind of wear you down with those big guys up front.
Is anyone salty over there that this isn't being held at the Fiesta Bowl and we're having to go all the way out to Georgia for this game?
A lot of people were pretty bummed out that they didn't get to host the Fiesta Bowl. But, it's funny. I think Kenny Dillingham is kind of excited about taking his program across the country because it's going to help for recruiting, all right? There's a lot of people here, a lot of kids here are already saying, hey, I want to play for the Sun Devils. But there's going to be some kids out there in Florida, in that part of the country, say, hey, wow, I kind of like these uniforms. I like this coach. I like this offensive style. Maybe I should think about ASU. And I think Kenny Dillingham is so smart. He's going to use this as a recruiting trip as well. And already in some of his sound bites, he's already been answering some questions that sounds like it's a recruiting trip already. It was like, hey, if you're a kid out there on the East Coast and you're watching us practice in 75-degree weather and in a playoff game, why wouldn't you want to come out here and play? So he's already using this whole thing to his advantage, that's for sure.
What's your prediction? Where are you feeling about this game as we go into it? Do they cover?
Well, it's funny because, the slogan here is forks up, horns down, right? They say forks up, horns down. But, I'm from Texas, so I tell people, look, what happens, right? When you mess with the bull, you get the horns, right? So you got to be careful, that's for sure. So, it's going to be a tough game for ASU. I think they cover because they might get some touchdowns late, but I'm going to continue to pick against ASU like I've done all year and say, okay, the clock's going to strike 12 on Cinderella so they can prove me wrong. And I'm going to add more fuel to the fire and say, ASU, you can't do it, because everybody's been telling them they can't do it, and they just continue to prove people wrong. It's funny because you've been waiting for like, okay, they've done well, but they can't beat K-State. They can't beat BYU. They can't win the Big 12 title game, right? Can they? And they just keep coming through. And so that's been amazing. So, if I was a betting man, which sometimes I am, I would probably take Texas minus the points. But when it's a game that I'm so emotionally invested in, I kind of stay away from. So I'm going to say, all you guys there in Texas, bet on your horns. And if you lose, don't come calling me. Call Julian over at Fox in Austin.
Throwing me under the bus here. What is this, Richard? Now, I appreciate your time today, man. Thank you for coming or talking to us. And hey, be sure to check out more content throughout the week. I'm sure we're going to be doing a lot of collaboration as we get into this one. So again, thank you.
Yeah, we need to do the whole special on Buc-ee's coming here to Arizona. We're gonna have one here in Goodyear, and I grew up in San Antonio, but I've been here 20 years. So when I was in Texas, they didn't have Buc-ee's, so I stopped when I was there for the Big 12 championship game, and I was like, "What is going on here?" That was like a whole different world. So a lot of people were excited about Buc-ee's coming to Arizona.
I tell you what, you can keep Buc-ee's, but we'll take the W on.
There you go, deal. Everybody wins.
Everybody wins. All right, guys. Richard Saenz, thank you so much. Have a great one, man.
You too, buddy.
For the day ones, the diehards, the first-timers, the old-timers. For all the rivalry matches, buzzer beaters, and come-from-behind miracles. It's not just stats and wins and losses. It's the moments, the shots you can't believe went in, the times you can't do anything but believe. And it's all streaming right here on your connected TV anytime on Fox Local.
The Sports Office, streaming anytime on Fox Local.